So, Monique, what would you say? Is there a certain state that you would tell people to look for investments, and what type of properties would you say they should be looking for? And where
Okay.
do they go for opportunities? Hey there, Krista Mashore here, and I am so fired up. I've got Monica Halm, and she is the founder of Real Estate Investor Goddess. She's got her amazing podcast, I'm sure she'll tell you about, and she's done some amazing things in investing. I was on her podcast, which you should go out and listen to that as well. She's also an investor herself, a syndicator, and again, the founder of Real Estate Investor Goddess. Okay, Monique, thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. And it's real estate investor goddesses. It's plural because I'm not the only goddess. All of us women, we all have a bit of the divine. We're all goddesses. So
I love it. So tell me so first of all, tell me a little bit about your backstory and how you got where you are and what you're doing now.
yeah, well, I totally didn't start to be a real estate investor. I grew up, I'm a first generation American. I was always told like to be successful, you're going to go to college, then grad school, and you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, professor, engineer. Like that was success. And of those, I was like, I'm not as into the maths and sciences, so I guess lawyer. It's gone that way. I went on to law school and then worked in some big firms. And I was
You got your law degree and then didn't end up doing it, huh?
Well, I
For a
did
short
it
time.
actually for almost 10 years, but
Oh
um,
wow,
I
long
was
time you worked.
I was miserable though the entire time. At one point, my I went to the hospital because I was having this excruciating abdominal pain, and when the doctor told me that my appendix had ruptured, and I'd be in the hospital for several days. I ended up being in the hospital for 9 days. And then I'd have at least 30 days afterwards of recovery. My first thought when he told me that was, oh, thank God I don't have to go to the office for at least 30 days.
Oh, that's so crazy. So
Yeah,
sad.
that's so great. That was my next thought. So I was not a happy lawyer at all. And I just had to but I had to find some other way because I'd done, everything right. And I was just that miserable.
Yeah, so many people do that. They go to college or they do the right thing, right? Go to college to be a doctor, a lawyer, attorney, whatever it might be, and then they hate what they're doing. And it's crazy to me how much money and time people spend to go into those careers just to be completely in debt, after doing so, and then not even to make that much money. The average person that goes to like Cornell, Harvard, and all those schools, they spend around $155,000 in like student loan to get out making around 55 to 60 on a good year in salary. And after 12 years of being in their profession, the average person makes around $85,000 a year. It's so sad. Okay, so tell me a little bit now. So how many rental properties do you have? How did you get started in that? And what do you teach people? Who do you teach?
Yeah, so I got started totally by accident because the only thing I'd been told was that, about real estate was to buy a house, buy the house you live in, which it's like, it's a liability. It's not really an asset. It's not putting money into your pocket every day, every month. But I'd been working for about 5 years as a lawyer, and I was like, I guess it's about time to buy a house. Is what you do. And I live in LA. It's super expensive market. So this was back in 2005, a starter home in a semi-decent neighborhood, upwards of $600,000-$700,000.
Back in
And
2005, huh? Wow.
in 2005, not like a palace in Bel Air or Beverly Hills, just like a starter home in a neighborhood where you probably wouldn't have a drive-by shooting. Like that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard to do by myself, even though I had, I was making like over 100,000 as a lawyer, but not that much over. I ended up, uh, a, a I ended up getting a small multifamily. I lived in one unit, rented out the others. I started house hacking before I knew that was a thing. And then when I met my husband, he had a duplex, and we got a single family rental together. We flipped houses after the market crashed and houses were on sale. And then in 2015, we learned about bringing groups of investors together to purchase larger properties. And so we started doing apartments and industrial and RV park and a mobile home park.
I've heard mobile home parks and RV parks are some of the best ones to invest in. Like mobile home parks, I heard are just like, that's where the money's at.
They can be. They can be. Just this particular one has not been so lucrative. Okay, like a little note, if you're gonna get a mobile home park, don't get one with like a lagoon sewage system because they are very expensive. Like we bought the park for 600,000. It's like there was a breach in the lagoon. It's like their sewage system cost us about $500,000 to fix. So it's not been
Oh,
good for the
wow.
bottom line and not the profitability. But yeah, the money is there when you can get things running, but watch out for, don't get lagoons in
Yes, yes, yes.
your mobile
So
park.
what would your advice be? What do you think about right now with the way the market is and interest rates? What do you think about investing right now?
I think there's always opportunities, especially if you have cash, but as the interest rates go up, your budget goes down.
Mhm.
If you're using debt, you just have to see where the numbers make sense. But also you can negotiate. So we're not at the time. And so where it's like everybody's doing over asking offers because not everyone can afford asking price anymore when the interest rates like have doubled in such a short period of time. Just means that if you're going to have debt, if you're going to have a loan, then you just don't have as big of a budget. But you can use that to negotiate down. You can look at other types of offerings, and if the numbers make sense, then get in it.
Gotcha. Okay. So Monique, what would you say? Is there a certain state that you would tell people to look for investments? And what type of properties would you say they should be looking for? And where
Okay.
do they go for opportunities? All three questions at once.
That's such a big question. And it totally depends on what you're looking for and why, because real estate investing is not one size fits all. It's not everybody that should be doing a short-term rental or medium-term rental or a single family home or a mobile home park or that, all of those things are different. So it really depends on what your goals are, how you want to play in the game. So some people you can invest passively, you can invest actively, you can invest where you never have to deal with toilets, tenants, termites. You can invest in ways where you get to make an ugly duckling property beautiful, or you can invest in a way where you're not even touching the property. You're only working with the documents, you own the notes, or you're lending money. So there's so many different ways that you can do this. So I don't want to say like this is the type of property you should buy. I think you want to figure out like what makes sense for you. That being said, I tend to like markets where there's a low to median cost of entry, especially as interest rates go up, right? The bigger the sticker price, the bigger the interest rate changes make the difference, right? When you're talking about $100,000 property, that's like, that can be that's less than $100 a month we're talking about in terms of
Yes.
difference. When you're going into the hundreds of thousands, million, right? Like then those interest rates too, like that makes those are thousands of dollars a month of difference, right? So
Yes.
the areas that are going to be hardest hit by these interest rate rises are the more expensive neighborhoods. So I like low to median cost of housing areas and areas that have really strong diverse local economy. So we don't want to be in we've all heard of like that one factory town where the factory shuts down and then it's like a ghost town, everybody goes. And it's terrible for the residents, also terrible for people who were relying on those residents, like
Yes.
landlords that were renting out properties. So you don't want to be in a one factory town or one industry town. So a lot of like Vegas and Orlando that were really hospitality based, they suffered the most during COVID when people were not traveling and taking advantage of the hospitality industry. So really diverse local markets, diverse in industry, diverse in the number of companies, very strong. That will best weather any sort of recession that we go into.
That's
And
great advice. All of that. Like, very, very good advice. Not lower entry points. Don't go anywhere where there's those like all the industries relying on one thing. If something happens in industry, you're in trouble. The housing market, like I've heard of it, and literally cities just kind of being abandoned and like everyone just goes because there's no work.
Yeah, you want to stay away from those and go where the population and jobs are increasing, where there's more jobs,
Yeah.
more population.
And ones that are maybe like there's a lot of development and growth that they're anticipating over a 5-10 year time frame, so makes a big difference. All
Yeah.
right. So what's the name of your podcast?
It's Real Estate Investor Goddesses podcast. It's like
Okay,
my
so
business. Yeah.
Real Estate Investors Goddesses podcast. What would you recommend if somebody wants to get started? Like what would how would they, what would be their course of action? What's sort of a step-by-step process if somebody wants to get started in investing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the first thing is to get get an education. Is I think you're going to get an education either way. When you're investing in real estate, it's a lot more pleasant and less expensive if it's upfront versus through the process and the
Yes.
bumps and bruises you get from not knowing what you should know. Spoken from with experience. So it's better. They said a smart person learns from their mistakes. A genius learns from other people's mistakes.
I
So
love
you,
that's very
you want to
true.
get an education, and hopefully a mentor, somebody that can help walk you through the process, and really find out, and then get clear on what it should be for you. What's your why behind your real estate investing? Is it to get passive income, to be able to retire from your job, like to be financially free? Is it to have the tax benefits of being a real estate investor? Is it to leave a legacy? Is
Do you
for your
know a lot of the tax benefits as far as being owning real estate?
Do I know about them?
You know a lot of information about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I did not realize when I first got into real estate, the huge tax benefits. And a lot of people don't know this because I was taught that the more you make, the more you pay in taxes, right? So it's like we have a progressive tax system, right? In theory. But real estate doesn't work that way because of depreciation and because of the way that the tax code is structured. They want to encourage people to invest in real estate. They give a lot of benefits, and oftentimes, even though you're making money you're making money in real life, it looks like you're losing money for tax purposes. So I have a good friend who he has 3 very successful businesses. He found himself owing $500,000 to the IRS one year. And he had assumed, like, I guess I've made a lot of money, so I'm going to have to pay, I have to pay this. And then he found out about the tax benefits of real estate investing. He bought an apartment building in Memphis, Tennessee. It was a building that was making 6 figures a year, so it was making money. But because of the way the tax code is structured, it was a loss for tax purposes. So his bill went from being $500,000 to 0. So you have to think it's not just what you make that matters, right? When you're building wealth, it's what you get to keep. So not
Yeah.
only is he making, over $100,000 on the building, but he saved $500,000 that he didn't have to send to Uncle Sam. So that's one of the beautiful things about real estate. Not every type of investment has that benefit. Depends on kind of a little bit on how, but mostly when you own properties, you can it's very tax beneficial.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. I need to talk to that accountant.
Yeah, it's important to have the right accountant because not all accountants are as savvy about
Oh
real
yeah, big
estate
time.
as because the tax code is tens of thousands of pages. So you want somebody who really understands real estate. And the savvy accountant, if you're making a lot of money, so if you're a business owner, they'll tell you, I think you should buy some real estate because your taxes are so high.
Yeah.
And you'll be making money off of your real estate, but it'll bring your tax bill down.
That's yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, so then you are definitely our wealth of information. How many rentals do you own?
Well, we have about over 1,200 doors between our apartment buildings and the parks and then our industrial facilities.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's much better than you don't that you just manage those properties and that's your career plus doing the
I'm not
business.
managing them. It's like we have third-party property managers, but yeah, managing assets.
Oh, good for you. So you definitely know a lot about investing. So if you want to learn more, whether you're a man or a woman, go to the Real Estate Investing Goddess podcast, and she can tell you even more. Is there anything else that where you'd like to send people, Monick?
Yeah, go to the website. The website is REI for Real Estate Investor, goddesses.com. And there you can find about connect to our podcast, the blogs, find out about our events, our trainings, all the things.
REI Goddesses podcast, right? Or
REIgoddesses.com.
Okay, REIgoddesses.com. Okay, thank you so much. I always end it in a certain way. So, I know this is kind of like a cliche question, but if somebody was to ask you, like, what the one piece of advice was, whether it's business, health, partnerships, relationships, wealth, abundance, happiness, what would the one piece of advice that you would give be on any area of life?
I think the one thing would be to ask the one thing question. There's a great book by Gary Keller called The One Thing. And that question is, what can I do that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? Like, what can I do towards this goal, towards this desire, towards this that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? And when you ask that, and you only focus on doing that one thing, and it could be one thing per week, one thing per month, one thing per day. But a lot of people are very busy and they spend a lot of time doing a lot of things, but they're not very productive or very effective. And a lot, because there's, that Pareto's principle, only, 20% contributes to 80% of the results. So if you're spending all your time in that 80% that only contributes to 20% of the results, then you're wasting time. So you can do a lot. When I learned this and I started implementing this, it was a complete game changer for my life. I could do a lot less, but get a lot further. So asking yourself that one thing question helps in every area of your life.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. That's so true. Oh my gosh, that's so. I'm literally going to text my staff just from what you just said as soon as we hang up. So everyone, Monick, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you. We appreciate listen, everyone. Thanks for being here. Your time means so much to me. And I hope you enjoyed Monick as much as I have. And you're going to go look her up and follow her. And be sure to not just listen, but to implement, because implementation is key. And just think about what is your one thing. Again, thank you for your time, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Hey there, I have a brand new podcast called Fired Up with Krista Mashore, where I bring my high energy right to your ears. This podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So do me a favor, go subscribe and leave a review. All this information is free, and I cannot wait to teach you everything I know. Thanks so much for watching my video. You can learn more about how to be a successful real estate professional by watching other videos that I have. And be sure to subscribe to my channel. And as always, make it a great home selling and buying day.